You're listening to the 12th Man Fan Jam on the Seahawk Positivity YouTube channel.
Hey, how about these ball hawks from the Pacific Northwest? Oh, I get it. Some might call them overconfident, a little bit full of themselves, but is it bragging if you back it up? Let's see. You hit them, they hit you harder. You get in their face, they get right back in yours. Basically, anything you do, they'll do better. Hold on. This isn't a sightseeing, we're just happy to get back to the big dance kind of thing for these guys. These fellas have meant business all season long. Hit first, ask questions later defense, a beast moves the earth when he runs, and a quarterback destined for this spotlight. So what do you say, Seattle? That other team may be a mile high, but we all know you guys crank it all the way up to 12.
Guys, as team captain, I want you all to listen up and listen good. Let's get the F out of here. I mean, there's an exit near the showers. I don't even know we're going. These guys are so good. And I'm very, very scared of them. I mean, can I be real with you right now? I mean, like, really, really real? I just thought about going out there for the second half, and a little bit of pee came out. It's no use, all right? We suck. And I know for a fact that we can't win this game. And I'd much rather head home, bake some snickerdoodles with a few of my bros, and then practice French kissing with my French kissing puppet.
And now it's time for another edition of the 12th Man Fan Jam with your host, the Reverend Moses of the St. Paul Island Church of Seahawk Positivity.
Yes, thank you, Magic Voice of the 12th Man Fan Jam. This is indeed the self-appointed Reverend Moses of the St. Paul Island Church of Seahawk Positivity, and welcome one and all to this week's very special show. We are truly honored that you have decided to join us this week and make us part of your Seahawk tradition as we sit around the world and discuss your Super Bowl champion, Seattle Seahawks. Please keep all cell phones on vibrate or turned off, and remember, all I'm ever saying is just give Pete a chance. As we embark down the road on this little trip known as 12th Man Fan Jam, I want you to know that, yes, we are not alone. That is for true. We have our 12th Man Fan Jam posse to take us through the show of shows. As always, this posse is led by my partner in crime, the yin to my yang. He is super, thanks for asking. Live from across the big pond in merry old England, he is Matt.
Well, not live from the big pond, that would be soggy. But hello, good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Matt, and how is your evening going so far?
It's soggy. It's raining.
We also have our very own news hound. His 12th Man editorial articles appear on SeahawkSal.com each week. From Ground Zero in Seahawk Nation, he is Will.
Woo. Hello, everybody. It's a great feeling to know that our team is number one.
It is, isn't it? It's almost like this show could go on forever. We could talk about this forever. We also have from SeahawkBlue.com. He's becoming a bit of a regular now. You know him as X-Ray Hawk. We know him as Dustin.
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm glad to be back again.
Great to have you as always, Dustin. You're becoming quite the regular on this show.
He's going to want paying soon, Moses.
Well, I'll take care of that. I'll talk to his agent a later time. We also have two very special guests with us this evening on this special Super Bowl celebration on the 12th Man Fan Jam. Our first very special guest is from New Jersey, a man whose website combines Seahawk football with the Mafia, because you aren't fans on SeahawkSal.com, you're family. The Don of SeahawkSal.com himself, none other than the one, the only Seahawk Sal.
Ayo, forget about it. How you guys doing?
Great, Sal. How you doing?
Doing awesome. What a week, huh, guys? What a week.
Hey, what's it like to have your favorite team win the Super Bowl in your home state?
Redemption. Redemption.
And last but certainly not least, his book, Notes from a 12th Man is available from Amazon.com and is a must-read for any Seahawk fan. From the bright lights of Hollywood, the Emmy Award-winning author, Mark Tye Turner.
Hey, I heard there was a game last Sunday. I kind of missed it, though. Did the Seahawks win?
Not big a deal.
I heard it was kind of like a preseason game, but actually, the Broncos scored less and the Seahawks scored more than the preseason game.
That is very true. Very true. I know everyone's itching to start this program, so let's start this Super Bowl celebration program, and let's talk about how we do things here at the 12th Man Fan Jam. The show is usually divided into 4 quarters, just like a real NFL game. Things are going to be a little different on this show. This first quarter, we're going to spend talking about our prognostications, our predictions for the Super Bowl, and our prop bets. We're also going to talk about the game itself. Then the second quarter, we will talk about the aftermath, the week afterwards, and what all happened and how our lives were affected by winning the Super Bowl. At halftime this week, Will is going to read his very special editorial about winning Super Bowl XLVIII. The third quarter is going to be spent being a little devious tonight. We're going to give a special shout out to all the doubters and detractors from our past to be sure that they know the Seattle Seahawks are Super Bowl champions. So we're going to get a little bitter in the third quarter. And finally, we will finish this show in the fourth quarter by thanking some very special people and dedicating this Super Bowl XLVIII victory to them. We'd also like to remind you we'd love to hear from you and what you think of our goofy little show. Hit us up on the email. Our address is on the screen right now. So send us a quick hi, and we'd love to hear from you, as we said. So we hope you sit back, relax, enjoy yourselves over the next hour or so, because you just can't get enough of reliving this Super Bowl, this season, or this team. But enough of me going on. Without further ado, let's get into the first quarter.
It's first quarter, bitches.
Okay, it's the first quarter, and as we said, we're going to talk about the big game itself. We're going to set things up and see where everybody was for this big moment in Seahawk history. And we'll start across the pond with Matt. Matt, where did you go see the game?
Well, I was really lucky because I went down to a pub in Kingston upon Thames, which is southwest London, and about 40 other Seahawks fans turned up. So we had the most Seahawks fans I've ever seen in England, actually, all in one place at the same time, all celebrating from the minute the game started. About before the game started, we started from about 8:30 in the evening here, and we went all the way through until 4 a.m. The licensee stayed open for us, so the landlord stayed open, the pub stayed open. We had free champagne at the end to celebrate the win. We had regulars sitting there and trying on jerseys and joining in and asking stupid bloody questions, but we answered them anyway. And we just had an absolute ball. And there's some pictures, and what I'll do, Dennis, I'll send you some pictures. So whilst I'm actually talking this through, if you can just put some of the pictures up on the YouTube clip, I think that would be good. But it was an absolutely brilliant night. I mean, we had the most fun I've ever had in the UK at a football match, and I felt like I was at the football match. That's the thing about it. And we were chanting. It was 3 a.m. We had windows opening. We're doing the Seahawks chant. We had beast mode chants going on, and literally nobody cared. It was just brilliant.
That's fantastic. Dustin, what was your setting for the big game?
I was at my house. We had probably about 10 or 12 people over, and hawk bombs galore, and just watched it here. Had my kids here, and did it that way. I had the opportunity to go up to Seattle and watch at the Hawks Nest with some of my friends, but I decided that since this was the first time that it looked like the Seahawks were going to win it for sure. I mean, I knew in my heart it was going to happen. That I wanted to spend that time with my kids. They're 10 years old right now. I got twins, and so they would have the memory of hanging out watching the Seahawks win their first Super Bowl together. So I didn't want to miss out on that opportunity. So I hung out here with them.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Will, where were you?
Well, like Dustin, I also foregoed downtown Seattle. I was at my buddy Jimmy's place over in Sammamish with Kiltman, his girlfriend, John Ryan, not the punter, the other Canadian John Ryan, just hanging out. And they had some, Jimmy and his wife Laura had some people over there too. And actually, I tried something new. I found a recipe for fireball Jello shots.
That sounds good.
It wasn't half bad. I mean, I had nearly 3 cups of Fireball in those things, but not
What
each
flavor
one.
Jello would you use with that? Just out of
It was
curiosity.
it was unflavored gelatin actually. We used Fireball and some ginger ale. The funny part was we ended up taking a shot after every score, so I'm kind of amazed I was able to drive home.
Hey Sal, where were you at for the big game?
I was home. I was home in New Jersey. I know that this is not going to be a popular opinion, but I can't watch important football games with people around me. I just can't do it. I need to be sequestered. Like my neighbors must think I'm on a bender because I close the blinds, I lock the doors, turn the phones off. Forget about it. I don't want anybody around. And my wife knows she's with me and watching the game with me, but watched at home and enjoyed the win from there. And I can't go to a bar. I can't be around a lot of people. You know what I mean? When there's such an important game going on.
I understand that. Mark, where were you at for the big game?
I was over at my friend Mark's place there. He lives like about 2 blocks from me, and he's from Vashon Island, and we have a whole group of people there. We're all from Washington, and so it was great. A couple people are from Vancouver, a few people were from Carnation. That's Vancouver, Washington, by the way, and a few people from Vashon. So it was great. It was a whole group of us there, and everybody's like a massive Hawk fan. So it was. Every time there was like a great play, we're all jumping and hugging, and it was great. And they have a great tradition there. Like anytime the Seahawks score a touchdown, they play this thing. They play the theme from the show Matlock. As Seahawks had scored, my friend Mark was working on a project and he had the Matlock theme going, and then the Seahawks scored. So ever since then, and every game we watch, we do, and everybody goes around and dances and everything. And there's a couple people that have no idea what's going on. That are like, there was a couple people that were non-Hawk fans. They really were. They were just kind of watching football. Actually, this one girl was watching a football game for the very first time in her life.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's only weird if it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. So the Matlock theme, that's where it started a few years ago, and ever since then, every time they score a touchdown, yeah, I mean it was just getting crazy.
It's like watching football with Grandpa Simpson or something.
But it was, I mean, just everybody just dancing around after every score, and it was, I mean, it just like from that first play on, it was just there. And I was holding on to my little Seahawk football, which I have this little like plush stuffed football that I use as a stress ball.
I do the same thing.
And I'm very superstitious. It's one of the reasons I didn't actually go to the game in New York, because I've gone to one game this year. I went and saw the Cardinal game in Seattle. So
that was you.
That was me. Some years I'm good luck. I was good luck. I went to the 49er game last year right before Christmas, and that was good luck. This year I was not so much the good luck. So I think by not going, the Seahawks won. So yes, I will take credit. I will take credit for the Super Bowl victory.
Well, I think I speak for all of Seahawk Nation when we say how much we appreciate that, you doing that for us. I was home. We had a party. We have met a couple of families here that live very close to us that are diehard Seahawk fans and former season ticket holders. In fact, one of them was an actual ball boy during the Erickson era in Seattle. And they live real close to us, and they've been here for a couple of years. And we had never run into each other, which is crazy because you walk around every day in Indiana wearing Seahawk stuff. You think other Seahawk fans would pick up on it, but we just never picked up with each other. And we met through Facebook friend, a mutual friend, found out we were close to each other, got in contact, started talking, realized we need to watch these games together. So we started watching the playoff games together, and it was really a great thing, and I'm glad that we did it. It's really great thrill for me to be able to watch the games with other people around me in the state of Indiana that are Seahawk fans. So that's kind of how I watch the game. But before we get too much in the game, I think maybe we should stop. We should take a look at our predictions, our prognostications from last week. And there they are on the screen right now, as you can see, for the score from last week's predictions. Dustin had picked 27-17. Statsman Mark had said 27-20. Will had said 34-21, Matt 31-24, myself 34-23. I think Will had the biggest discrepancy in points there, so he will get the victory on the score. As far as our prognostications, you see them up there as well. Dustin said Lynch would get 3 TDs, and he got 1. Statsman Mark said that Averill would get a sack and a forced fumble. He did not, however, I believe Chris Clemens was credited with 2 of those. And Will said there'd be a pick six from Sherman. He was close. There was a pick six by MVP Malcolm Smith, but there was not a pick six for Richard Sherman. Meanwhile, Matt said 6 INTs, and there were only 2 for Peyton Manning. And my prognostication was that Wilson would have 3 TDs, and he only had 2. We also did something called prop bets, and what those were strange bets about the Super Bowl that Las Vegas had. And the prop bet that Dustin had is, will Richard Sherman get an INT in the game? I remember his response was, hell yeah, but it was actually no, he didn't get an interception. For Mark, his prop bet was, will the first touchdown be a pass? And he said no, and it wasn't. The first touchdown of the game was Marshawn Lynch running it in. Will's prop bet was both teams will have a field goal longer than 33 yards, and he said yes, and that did not happen thanks to the defense of the Seattle Seahawks. And Matt's prop bet would be John Ryan would have a punt over 34 yards. He said no. Our punter, John Ryan, I should say, had 1 punt, and it was 36 yards. So Matt barely missed out on that. Meanwhile, my prop bet was that Russell Wilson would rush over 30 yards. I said no, but he'd fall between 20 and 30, and sure enough, he had 26 yards rushing. So I got that one as well. Our which is bigger last week is the same one we did every game near the end of the season. Which number would be bigger, the amount of interceptions by Manning or the amount of sacks? Matt said 6-2 on that. Dustin said 3-0. Mark said 3-0. Will said 4-1, and I said 2 interceptions and 1 sack, and I hit it right on the nose. So that's kind of a good break for me, I guess you could say. So anyway, back to the game. As this game starts unfolding, and we'll start with Sal. Sal, as this game starts to unfold, when did you start to think maybe this is finally going to happen? When did you start to think that the Seattle Seahawks were actually going to be Super Bowl champs?
Well, here's a little funny story. I'm very superstitious myself. And any Italians know we all have patron saints, right? Well, my patron saint is St. Anthony. So every single time we watch the Seahawks, I got a little St. Anthony statue up, next to my football helmet. And I don't know if this is sacrilegious or not, but I have a perfect little pocket helmet that fits right on St. Anthony's statue's head. It's freaking awesome.
Why does this not surprise me?
I only put the helmet on when things are going tough. You know what I mean? When I turned around and I looked up at the damn mantle and there was no helmet on St. Anthony, I knew, we were all right. All kidding aside, even though that's the truth, all kidding aside, that Percy Harvin touchdown return for me, I mean, I had a smile on my face and I had a tear in my eye because I kind of knew right from there. Not only were we winning the game, but Denver was just like totally demoralized. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Mark, when did you first feel it?
I was the same with Sal there, that it was the Harvin touchdown there, because at halftime I was feeling really good about it, but I was going, well, we're only up by 22. I mean, it is Peyton, and you got the most explosive offense of all time. I'm like, I felt good. I felt happy at halftime, but I also felt like it's not over yet. But then that first play, I mean, that Harvin, I was like, wow, we're going to be the world champions. It was that. I mean, it was so crazy. Like, I feel bad for like the Seahawks fans at the stadium that they missed that. Like, wow, you missed the nail. Wow, it was.
Yeah, I was just stunned the whole game. Will, when did you feel it?
Well, it was a funny thing. I just couldn't believe it. Even after the Harvin kick return, which no fewer than 3 people in our group predicted, by the way. So that was like the least surprising kickoff return touchdown I've ever seen. But even after that, even after Curse's score, even after Baldwin's score, I'm just like, there's another shoe going to drop. Something's going to happen. Something's going to go wrong. I wasn't upset, I wasn't freaking out, but and then about 5 minutes and 30 seconds left in the game, they have a shot of the guy bringing out the Vince Lombardi trophy, and my heart skipped a beat. And I think right there, it's like, we're going to win. Holy hell, we're going to win the Super Bowl.
Dustin, what about you? When did you finally feel it?
Honestly, I felt it before the game. It just seemed like we were going to win just because everything felt right leading up to it. Listening to local sports radio and all the Seahawks fans were in the area and seeing the sales for the Super Bowl, I was like, man, we are going to kind of have a little bit of a home field advantage with this. So the whole week, the momentum just felt good. Everything felt right. And then come halftime, I was pretty convinced. I was like, man, it's 22 points against this defense, and that's assuming our offense or special teams doesn't score. There's no way they're coming back. So let's say realistically, halftime.
Yeah. And Matt, what about you?
Yeah, I was a bit similar to Dustin. When I got to the pub over here, I met up with some fans I hadn't seen for a while, and one of them said to me, "We're going to demolish them, Matt. We're absolutely going to demolish them." And we didn't have any nerves in the day. I didn't have any honestly, I believed we would win. And the opening snap, everyone laughed. I mean, the whole place just erupted into laugh. There was pointing and like that whole at the screen, and thing, Peyton Manning like, "Oh, you got the cadence wrong, it was just hilarious. So that started off really good for me. And then by the time we got to half time, I just knew that it was done. I just couldn't believe that their offense was going to be able to put up anywhere near 22 points to even to draw level with us, let alone to win it.
Something else I thought was pretty funny about it, guys, was I thought it was a good omen that the coin toss got intercepted.
Yeah, amazing.
Well, hey, at least Namath didn't turn to Terry McAuley and say, "I want to kiss you." Tell you what, though, I was impressed with, and you're never going to hear me say this again, but I was impressed with the officiating in the game. I mean, they let the teams play. They called the blatant stuff. They stayed away from the ticky-tack things. They weren't perfect, but that's about as good as you can expect.
I mean, listen, you guys forget these. This game was in New Jersey, right? These guys wouldn't go home if they were making bad calls. They knew they had to get all the ducks in a row, or else they were going to be underneath the ducks.
But they still made 15 calls in that game. We still got 10. I think it was 10 penalties against us for about 100 or so yards. So they still made calls.
They did, but somebody mentioned the sound effects thing. I don't remember if it was before or after the show started, but on that sound effects show, they showed this little part where Pete Carroll was lobbying to one of the refs there about how Richard Sherman got knocked down, should have been offensive pass interference. And the ref's answer was basically playoffs. And Pete was like, "Okay, I can deal with that. I can handle that. It's football. That's cool."
They're going to make mistakes, err on the side of not throwing the flag. I'd rather see some stuff not get called.
I agree.
Have too much ticky-tack stuff get called.
Let them play.
Yeah, let them play the game.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I also think like by Sal's saying that means Jersey is much tougher than Detroit because of the refs what they did in Detroit. So that's interesting.
Well, not really. Detroit was like 95% drunken Steeler fans. If they had calls in Seattle's favor, they would have gotten out of there alive.
You make a good point about that.
Yeah,
I was there. I remember fearing for my life trying to get out of Detroit the night before the game.
Yeah, it was not a pleasant experience at all in Detroit, but luckily we can put that behind us now. We have a Super Bowl victory, and we did it with all cylinders full go. It was such a complete game. The offense, the defense, the special teams, it all clicked, and it's ours. It's our Super Bowl championship, and we won it by having our team play probably the best game they played all year on all sides of the ball.
And they did it at the expense of maybe the best quarterback in history, the most prolific offensive year in history. So.
Just to say as well is that for once we've got a game as well where nobody can turn around and say that we won it from a foul Mary in an end zone or we won it because of a bad call. We won it because we beat the living crap out of them.
And weather wasn't an issue either, so they can't use that as an excuse.
No excuses.
There's no excuses. Nobody can say a damn thing about how we won or why we won. We just beat the crap out of them. We won.
Yeah, totally.
And we beat them worse than we beat the Jaguars. Think about that.
You know what argument I'm waiting to hear I haven't heard yet? I'm waiting to hear people be like, "Yeah, but it was Peyton Manning. It was the playoffs. He's never any good in the playoffs." I've been waiting to hear that all week. Haven't heard it yet, though. I'm sure I will eventually.
And it's like what Richard Sherman said to Tom Brady after we beat the Patriots last year. "You're just one man. We're a team." Peyton Manning is just one man. These Seahawks are a team.
And what a team they are. A Super Bowl champion team is what the Seattle Seahawks are.
It's the end of the first quarter, bitches.
Well, that's the end of the first quarter, so we'll take a quick station identification, and we'll be back to talk more about your Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks right after this.
You're listening to the 12th Man Fan Jam on the Seahawk Positivity YouTube channel.
The teams are going to head to the middle of the field. That is going to do it. 12s, they're bringing the trophy home. Your Seahawks, Super Bowl XLVIII champions.
And now it's time for the second quarter of the 12th Man Fan Jam. Here to take you through the second quarter is once again our host, the self-appointed Reverend Moses of the St. Paul Allen Church of Seahawk Positivity.
Yes, thank you, Magic Voice of the 12th Man Fan Jam, and welcome back to quarter two of this very special Super Bowl celebration edition of your 12th Man Fan Jam. We are having a great time talking about this Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawk football team. Alongside myself, your self-appointed Reverend Moses of the St. Paul Allen Church of Seahawk Positivity. We have my partner in crime from across the ocean, Matt. We also have Dustin. We also have Shadowhawk Will, and two very special guests, Mark Tye Turner, author of Notes on a 12th Man book. And also we have from SeahawkSal.com himself, Seahawk Sal. Sal, how you doing this evening?
You kidding me? Forget about it.
That is fantastic, Sal. Fantastic. And right now we're going to talk in the second quarter a little bit about how your week has gone after the Super Bowl. And I guess we'll start with Matt. Matt, how has your week gone after the Seahawks won the Super Bowl?
Well, my week's been fantastic. In England, you've got to bear in mind that as soon as the Super Bowl finished, you get one page on one paper, and that's it. There's no show, there's no glamour, there's no glitz. A really factual piece that says the Seattle Sharks, because they normally get our name wrong, beat some horses. The score we think was about 4-0. We're not quite sure what the score was. No one understands the rules. But there was some fireworks, and some funny dude turned up with a coat that looked like a live chinchilla. That was the best coverage I could find in the UK to cover the Super Bowl. My week, though, I went into work. I had the day off on the Monday afterwards because I was hungover to hell. I went back into work on Tuesday, and my whole team, literally every one of them, wanted to sit down and talk to me about this, because every single one of them, I didn't know this, but every single one of them watched the game. And the only reason they watched it was because they knew that I was going to be doing a pop quiz on the Tuesday. Which one of my team didn't watch the bloody Super Bowl? So that was really fantastic. And then all I kept waiting for was Wednesday, because I just wanted to watch the parade live. And I was really hopeful that Q13 Fox would get a link up, and they did. So I got to watch the live parade from Seattle. In all honesty, I was about 10 minutes away the week before from booking tickets to fly to Seattle, because I would have been in Seattle for the Super Bowl if I could have been. Just didn't quite get the funds at the time, but I would have been if I could have been.
Likewise. Dustin, how has your week been so far?
Good. I didn't go to work again until Thursday, so that was pretty sweet. I spent Monday on the couch recovering. I didn't really move much. Watched some TV, had NFL Network on, and listened to that and ESPN. That night, 950 KJR here, they didn't go off the air ever. They were on air the entire night. So I streamed it online and listened to that show and kind of, woke up, fell asleep, listened to that all night. Tuesday, I was hoping the parade was going to be then, so I took that day off, found out it was Wednesday, decided to stay home Tuesday anyways, and then went up to the parade on Wednesday with my kids. I ended up in the stadium and watched it from there, so that was pretty cool. It's one of those things where it's a piece of history, and again, I want my kids to be a part of it. So I took my kids up there, and it was pretty awesome. I mean, I'd never experienced that before, so I didn't know what to expect, and it was just everything you ever hoped for once it started. It was pretty sweet. Seeing all the sea of fans there, and everybody partying, Marshawn Lynch on top of that duck boat was hilarious. It was fun, man. So much fun.
That's fantastic. That is wonderful. We're also joined by well-known Emmy Award winner and author Mark Tye Turner, whose book, Notes from a 12th Man, A Truly Biased History of the Seattle Seahawks, is on sale now at Amazon.com and all fine bookstores everywhere. It is a must-read for any Seahawk fan. And Mark, how does your week gone after the Seahawks won the Super Bowl?
Oh, well, other than spending almost every waking hour absorbing everything, all the coverage. I mean, the great thing about the World Wide Net is that you can start reading. On Monday, of course, I had to go to the DenverPost.com and read all the Denver, Woody Page and this other jerk. I forgot the guy's name, but I had tweeted about this guy before because he was slamming
Mark
Richard
Kiesla?
Sherman. Yeah, exactly, that guy. Yeah, he was a total dick about the whole Seahawks beforehand, was slamming Richard Sherman. And so I had to read all their crying and everything like that. That was a lot of fun.
You might have to give him a shout out later.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Him and there was this other guy from the New York Post is the jerk I also didn't like either. There's a guy from the Post. So, but doing all that, one of the cool things is that on Tuesday night, my wife and I went to this this event, this fundraising event for this dog rescue organization at the House of Blues over in Hollywood. And I'm going into the door, like we're checking in and getting our wrist stamped and all that, or getting our wristbands. And the doorman there, he just looks at me and he goes, "Congratulations." I should have. I was wearing a Seahawk coat, so I had to wear my Seahawk jacket. I wore it everywhere this week, which I wear it a lot of times anyway. But I wore it to this shishi event where everybody's like kind of more dressed up. I said, "I'm putting the Seahawk coat on," and the guy he looks at me, and just goes, "Congratulations."
Wow, nice.
Yes, and it was very cool. Just getting, I mean, my phone blew up. I'm sure everybody's phones blew up on Super Bowl night. I just had so many texts and everything, and emails the next day, and like people that I've known, former bosses, like an old boss of mine that I worked with on Blind Date, who's a Falcon fan, just out of the blue, emails me. All these people. So it was kind of took a few days to kind of respond to everybody like that, but you know. A great thing, and like we could just say congratulations. We could say to each other, it's just like this pure, sort of event that so many people can experience, and it's just not like one or two people. It's this whole group. It's our whole 12 family, and I mean, I was choking up at watching and the little promos on TV, like your Seattle Seahawks are world champions. Those cheesy commercials that they always have, the people dancing and wearing the shirts and all that. And you always get pissed off when you see the other teams, those commercials on. And then this time, I actually kind of teared up a little bit. So I even had to rewind it on the TiVo a couple of times. It seems so unreal, but the truth, it's the reality.
Do you guys get the Malcolm Smith Disneyland commercial?
Yes.
That
No,
thing's
I
pretty
haven't
cool
seen
too.
that. Oh no, I did see the. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the Disney World one. Yes, I did see.
They played that over here, and let me tell you want to know how much of a homer I am? I got my iPad out, and I recorded the friggin' television while that thing was on. I made a video of the video.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Nice work. Nice work. Sal, how has your week been over there?
Well, let me sum it up in 3 words. I think it's surreal, tiring, and very costly. And let me start with surreal. Listen, I mean, look how long it's been for us guys. I mean, look how long this has been. Forget about it. I mean, I've been a fan since 1979. And I know there's a couple guys out there. You guys have been there since the inception, but I was a little too young for that. But it's just so long. I mean, you got to the point where the concept of us being world champions seemed like it was like almost not possible. I mean, everything, like everything we did, there'd be a botched snap, or there'd be a bad call, or there'd be a this, or a bad coach. You know what I'm saying? It was just always something.
Bad owner.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And to finally get there, and just like what Mark said, seeing the commercials, all that stuff, it was just surreal. So that's the first part of my week. The second part would be tiring, because let me tell you something. I stayed up. I was off on Monday as well, because I would have been worthless, whether we won or we lost. So didn't make a difference. But I had to consume every piece of media I could get my hands on. I was watching television. I was saving articles. They got this great program. I'm not trying to pump anything up, but there's something called Pocket, right? Where you find an article, you could save it to your pocket so you read it later. I think I had like 300 and something articles in a pocket.
Nice.
It's just stuff that you want to save and you want to archive and you want to keep for later. Like the Super Bowl parade. I was on Seahawks.com and I was downloading every stupid picture I can find just so I have it. I want to be able to have that forever. Yeah. And lastly, I'd say costly, because I'm such a jagoff. I'd buy anything with a Seahawks Super Bowl logo on it. They could have a rock-up piece of salami, and I'd buy it if it had a Seahawks Super Bowl logo on it. I'd buy anything. I buy a pack of condoms. Doesn't make a difference. I buy anything with it. Doesn't matter. So anything I can get my hands on, I buy. So
I think we're all like that, Sal, and I think that's a really great description.
Of course.
So, Will, how about you? How was your week after the Super Bowl?
Well, I definitely have to agree with Sal and the rest of you on the costly part. It's probably a good thing I didn't fly out to New York, because in the end, I'll probably end up spending about as much money as I would have on the trip on Super Bowl merchandise. But this week, I mean, just the last few weeks, it's been so fun to see all the Seahawks stuff around here. Everybody here just getting so into the Seahawks, just getting caught up in the moment, talking, exchanging high fives with total strangers and everything. And then just to know that we won it. I mean, just everybody's walking around with these goofy grins on their face, myself included. And the parade and the rally, I mean, first of all, next time we have one of these, let's postpone it to June so I don't freeze my ass off again.
Yeah, that's a good call.
750,000 plus, maybe upwards of 1 million, who knows. Just looking at the pictures, just seeing all the people there, and it became real when I tried to go home afterwards. But so many people just going nuts, having so much fun, all the memories and everything, and then being at the rally and seeing Russell Wilson run out of the tunnel with the Vince Lombardi trophy and then having Walter Jones there to raise the 12th man flag.
Yeah, it was awesome.
This whole thing is just, I waited my whole life for it, and it was worth the wait.
That whole thing when Marshawn's spraying the champagne on Russell in the Lombardi, that was pretty funny too.
Did you see Marshawn Lynch on top of that duck boat sneaking in a ball of Fireball? How friggin' awesome is that? Speaking of Fireball, I don't have it right here, but let's have a little toast here. All right, let's have a little toast. I got some Knob Creek bourbon. So,
I got
salute to all you Seahawk fans. Salute to all the 12s. Gabish? Salute.
Salute.
So my favorite picture from that parade was they got the one of Marshawn Lynch on top of the duck boat, standing up, looking at the camera, and like all the fans around him, like that literally touching up on the boat, fans everywhere. And somebody made a meme about that, said something about 49ers have a gang. Marshawn Lynch brings the 12th man army or whatever. It's really, really cool looking picture.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Funny, Sal, that you bring up a toast tonight because this evening I went out to eat with the family. Of course, we're all dressed in Seahawk stuff, and we're sitting there eating, and all of a sudden I look across the table at my son, and I say, hey. And he looks up, and I said, this is our first Friday as Super Bowl champions. So we all raised our glasses in the middle of this restaurant in Indianapolis and raised a toast to the Super Bowl champion Seahawks.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, in the land of Peyton Manning, which is where I'm at. I kind of get it. I mean, the guy is an incredible person, and he has an entire wing of a children's hospital over here named for him. So I get the respect and the love, and I like the guy myself. But all I heard for 2 weeks around here was Peyton Manning, Peyton Manning, Peyton Manning, and that's all I heard. So it kind of helped me out a little bit over here to be able to beat the world's best quarterback, and it's been kind of very satisfying. I also took the day off Monday. I was going to be absolutely no use at work, just like everybody else. And what I did was I basically just soaked it all in for the whole day. I had one eye on the computer and the other eye on the TV, flipping between every sports channel I could get. And I just soaked it in. I just soaked it in like it was my last 24 hours on earth. I took everything in that I could. I was getting notifications and emails and texts from people I haven't heard in 4 or 5 years, people I haven't worked with in 10 or 15 years. It's just absolutely surreal. It's funny, during the game, I have a lot of friends who are Colt fans, and one in particular was kind of teed off at his fellow Colt fans about this whole Manning mania that's happened the last couple of weeks. And he said, I love Manning. He's a great guy. But let's be honest. I was a Colt fan before Peyton Manning, and I was a Colt fan afterwards. And Andrew Luck's my quarterback now. And I appreciate what Manning's done, but let's move on with our lives. So he was watching the game somewhere with a bunch of Colt fans, and when they got done, he kind of texted me, and he said, I got to tell you, there's a lot of unhappy people here, but I am grinning absolutely ear to ear right now.
Holy shit, it's halftime.
Well, we've reached halftime, halfway through this very special Super Bowl celebration edition of the 12th Man Fan Jam. We're going to take a quick break, take a station identification, and we'll be back with a very special editorial by our own Shadowhawk Will.
You're listening to the 12th Man Fan Jam on the Seahawk Positivity YouTube channel.
It's payback, Russell Wilson falling way back in the trap. Turn nothing into something, still can make that straw in the gold jump. I will spin, rumple still skin in a haystack.
And now, with a very special halftime editorial, here is Will Shadowhawk Harrison.
This is for the fans. This game is for the people who have followed the Seahawks team since day one. The fans who screamed their hearts out for this team back in the expansion years when they were 2-12 or 5-9. This is for the kids who went to school with Seahawks lunchboxes, who wore Seahawks t-shirts and sweatshirts until they were threadbare, who took the field at recess pretending to be Dave Craig, Steve Largent, and Kurt Warner. This is for the people who stuck by this team in the 90s when Ken Behring and his cronies were doing their best to ruin it, who kept showing up at the Kingdome week in and week out when Seattle was losing week in and week out. and who did everything in their power to help keep Bearing from stealing this team away to Los Angeles. This is for the fans who endured the taunts, the oh-so-clever nicknames like Sea Chickens, and the abuse from fans of teams who had won championships, Niner fans. This is for the fans who watched ESPN and other networks for hours, hoping to see highlights of their team's victories, only to be all but ignored. This is for the fans that longed, hungered for the day when their team would be making headlines. This is for the people that were here for the last time, when the Seahawks made their improbable run to the Super Bowl back in 2005. This is for those of us who were able to go to Seattle's first Super Bowl, who stuck up for their team despite being ridiculously outnumbered by Steeler fans. And this is for everyone who felt the pain of Seattle coming out on the short end of bad call after bad call, as the Seahawks lost a game that they were more than capable of winning. This is for everyone who followed this team from afar, who didn't just give up and follow the local team, but became and remained Seahawk fans in spite of the distance. This is for everyone who had to settle for a couple of brief highlights and box scores in the paper because Seattle never played on their local television. This is for the people who stuck by this team in the years that followed our Super Bowl loss, as Mike Holmgren's team disintegrated and a team that 3 short years earlier had been the NFC's best fell back into the ranks of the league's worst. This is for the people who had to endure the year that Jim Mora proved he was not up to the task of coaching this team, a year that had every Seahawks fan wondering if their turn would ever come. And this is for a city that has known so much heartbreak, that had its NBA team stolen by a dishonest owner and a league commissioner that conspired against them, that has seen its sports teams disappoint year after year after year. It's been a long time coming, but here, finally, I can speak these words. The Seattle Seahawks, our Seattle Seahawks, are Super Bowl champions! And it was more than worth the wait.
You're listening to the 12th Man Fan Jam on the Seahawk Positivity YouTube channel.
They would do their jobs, they would see that we throw the ball second fewest in the league. But if they also did their jobs further, they would see that we are the most efficient receiving corps in the NFL. And so, you know, all that negativity, the talk that was being said, I was just letting them know that I did not forget about that. Of course, I got one more thing to say, though.
Please do.
Okay. My man that said that we were appetizers, right? He told me to Google him, and I did that. I saw that he was a Hall of Famer, which, like I said, I respect what he did on the football field, but also saw two conference championships appearances, none of which he won, and I didn't see any Super Bowl appearances. All that stuff came to me in Google, and I would love for him to come to me, and I'd love to show him the Super Bowl. Like I said, I can't say any names. I would love to show him the Super Bowl ring. And if he doesn't want to come and see it personally, tell him he can Google it. I'm not trying to be overconfident or cocky. I'm just saying when you talk down about us, you give us bulletin board material, of course we're going to have to do it.
This is your time, man. Chirp away, my man. I'm going to give it to you.
We're Super Bowl champions, like, without a doubt.
It's the third quarter, bitches.
Yes, thank you, Mosette, for welcoming us back to the second half of the 12th Man Fan Jam special Super Bowl celebration show. We've got an amazing cast of characters on the 12th Man Posse tonight. Of course, we have Matt from England. We also have Dustin, and we have Will from the wonderful state of Washington. But we also have 2 special guests, Tye Turner, author and an Emmy Award-winning Tye Turner, Notes from a 12th Man, a truly biased history of the Seattle Seahawks. If you haven't read it yet, please go get it and read it. And of course, we have the Dawn of SeahawkSal.com, a wonderful website started by this man himself, Seahawk Sal. And before we get into everything, we want to kind of talk about what we're going to do this third period. You know, we've been Seahawk fans for a long time, and we've put up with a lot of mediocrity, we put up a lot of jokes, and we put up with a lot of garbage from the media, from our friends, from our family. And quite frankly, we have some chips on our shoulders the size of Texas, and we need to remove those chips because we are now Super Bowl champs. And as the opening said, you know, you heard Baldwin talk about his feud with Chris Carter. Russell Wilson had a picture out of all the 2012 draft class that said we were graded an F, but now we're champs. So we feel like as fans, we need to get something off our chest as well. So it's time for us to give out our own shout outs.
Hey, can I do a shout out? Shout out.
Here are how the shout-outs are going to work on a 12th Man Fan Jam. We're going to go around the table to all of our guests, and we're going to let them recognize those who have maybe disrespected us or dissed our team over these years and kind of rub their nose in it a little bit. So we're going to start with Matt. Matt, you got some shout-outs you'd like to give out this evening?
Well, first, I am British, so we don't normally do this. We're quite refrain, stiff upper lip type people, but I think I've got 6.
Don't be a girl.
I'm gonna start with some British people who do actually listen to the show. Paolo Wyeth, you know who you are. You're the only San Francisco fan in this town who kept reminding me every single bloody day how many fucking rings you've got. You weren't born.
I like this guy.
You weren't born when they got the last one. So, quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned, I can remember when I got my last Super Bowl ring. You can't.
Oh!
So that's the first one. I'd like to thank every single British soccer hooligan who has showed me why soccer is a game that I should avoid. I'd like to also thank every single British person who says, American football, isn't that just rugby for pussies? I want you to watch Mr. Lockett, and I want you to watch those kickoff returns when he hits the Rams and when he hits the San Francisco 49ers, and then you want you to tell me why these people wear pads, all right? Contact sport. You don't understand it. You're too busy in soccer. Shut up. I'd like to thank Skip Bayless and Stephen A. because you suck at life. And my last one, I've got 2 more. Sorry, we're going to put them in. I'd like to say, Bill Levy, you remind me why euthanasia is still a valid treatment for old people. and the French, just because.
The French, just because.
The whole nation, just because.
Hey Matt, you can come over to my house for Sunday macaroni anytime, my man.
Wow, that was outstanding, Matt. Dustin, you got some shout outs you want to share?
I've got one. Yeah, it's funny, this last week and reading the prep for the show kind of reminded me of a few different things that I had actually forgotten about until recently. This goes out to Drill Sergeant Hernandez from basic training when I was in the Army. Guy was a Raiders fan. And I remember one day we had some downtime. I was talking to a couple other basic trainee guys. And he overheard me talking about how I like the Seahawks. Obviously, that's an AFC rival. That dude smoked the shit out of me for an hour, trying to get me to break and get me to admit that theirs were a better team. I never broke. I would not do it. I was sore as hell and tired as hell, and my life sucked that day, but I never broke. So I just want to say to Drill Sergeant Hernandez, your team hasn't won a Super Bowl since before you were born. My team is the current champ, so screw you.
Very nice.
Well done. Well done.
Outstanding work, soldier. Outstanding. Mark, Tye Turner, do you happen to have a shout out or two?
All right, I'll give you one to start because I know we're kind of going around, and I know Matt kind of alluded to him, but I think he needs a much bigger one, sort of a slam and a diss, because he is probably the biggest Seahawk hater of all time, and that is a certain ESPN quote-unquote talent by the name of Skip Clueless. I will not give his real name. I always refer to him as Skip Clueless because this guy has never, his entire run on ESPN, has never said anything nice about the Seahawks other than, oh, yeah, they got a pretty good defense. That's it. And so, to you, Skip, suck it.
But, I kind of disagree with that because in the preseason, if you remember, he said we were going to challenge the Broncos for the top of the AFC.
Oh,
that was perfect.
I like to put a little caveat on what he said. Talent is a very loose term when referring to Skip Bayless.
Sal, can you think of a couple?
Yeah, I can think of a couple. How about like ESPN in general? Forget about it. I mean, listen, I'm on the East Coast, right? Every single Sunday, I waited to watch Seahawk highlights, waiting just to see our friggin' team logo. What did they do? They always showed a 10-second clip, and they always said the reason why the other team won, or they always dissed us. They always gave us nothing. They gave us Ugats. So there's a big FU to ESPN. Oh, speaking of which, during the draft, I can remember me and Will over here watching the draft, talking on television. All we wanted to do was wait for the Seahawks to come up. That's all we wanted to do, right? The Seahawks come up. They put the wrong friggin' logo. They put the wrong Seahawks logo. Are you kidding me?
And then they break for commercial.
Yeah, and they break for commercial. Listen, forget about it. So big Malukia, big FU to ESPN, all those people. We finally got a Super Bowl. Now they talk about us left and right, and I just laugh. This one's a little personal. Back in the day when I was a little kid, my father took me to Philadelphia to watch the Seahawks play the Eagles. So this is a big FU to Philadelphia Eagles fans right now. I think it was 1989, and we absolutely stunk that year. We were like 7-9 or 8-8 or something. All right, so there I was sitting there as a kid, rocking my Seahawks starter jacket, and we're getting blown out, absolutely blown out. And all of a sudden, I turn around and I see my father dragging some guy sitting behind us down to our row. And I'm a kid. I'm saying, what the hell's going on? I was in shock. Security came, separated both of them, and after things settled down, I found out that my dad saw these funds of news spraying ketchup and mustard on my back. I had no idea what was going on. No idea what was going on. My dad saw that, dragged the guy down out of his seat. All right? Don't forget, back in the day, Veterans Stadium, there's a jail back there. Jail down the basement. These fans are jerk-offs. So, anyway, big F you to these guys, because you know what? You may have beat us that day, but we're Super Bowl champions, and you're still a jerk-off.
Okay, this is the honest truth, Sal. When we won the Super Bowl, and I was thinking about it, all my friends and all the stories and all the people that had dissed us over the years and people that had dissed my friends, this very story you just told about you being in Philadelphia is exactly the first thing that came to my mind, and that's no lie.
Total redemption. I mean, think about it. The Eagles weren't our rivals. You know what I mean? They just have a bunch of jack-off fans in the, in the stands. You don't do that. So whatever it is, we finally. Hey, you know what that is? Not only is that lack of respect and stupidity, it's just that they didn't respect us as a team. They didn't respect us as a team. So there you go. Buffalo Blue Eagles.
Will, what do you got? You got some shout-outs you'd like to do this evening?
Oh yes, I've got a few people I'd like to.
Are we still going around on these?
Mark, I'll come back to you. You got a couple more?
Oh yeah.
Well, Sal, you mentioned ESPN in general. I'd like to focus on one particular moron at that network who has done his very best to make a jackass out of himself lately, and that is Chris Carter.
Yep.
If you honestly think that Seattle's receivers are pedestrian appetizers, and you're proven wrong, you own up to it, okay? You don't go shooting your mouth off 3 weeks leading up to this game, the 49ers game, all of that, talking about them, and then afterwards say, well, I never said that. I wasn't saying they were bad. I wasn't doing this. You know what? Quit being such a... sorry, is the FCC on this? Quit being such an idiot and just man up and apologize. And speaking of idiots, I'd like to give a special shout out to the fan base that may have overtaken Philadelphia as the most classless bunch of morons out there, and that would be the 49ers fan base. 49er fans who post on the forum at 49erswebzone.com.
They're brilliant minds.
If you want to talk about the most people with their heads farthest up their asses, go to that board, game day post for the Super Bowl. That thing is over 100 pages of PED this, cheating that. Oh, we should have been there. Oh, we would have kicked their ass. Oh, Seattle's not that good. And then 3 pages solid, practically, it seemed like that anyway, of Richard Sherman getting hurt and these same fans who were probably calling him classless 2 weeks ago saying, man, I hope he dies. Man, I hope he broke his neck. Oh, man, just drag him off and shoot him. Just the most vile stuff you can imagine about a guy who got hurt.
And just put a condom on your computer if you go to that site because it might get a virus. They're dirty.
Yeah, it's just, you know what, 49er fans, I'm going to enjoy tasting your tears for the next 6 months and enjoying your butt hurt over that NFC Championship game because you deserve it. On a related note, not exactly pertaining to the Super Bowl, but close to it, Colin Kaepernick. I have to say,
I can't stand
after the NFC Championship game, I was impressed with Kaepernick. He went up to Wilson and said, hey, go get yourself a ring. He goes into the post-game press conference. It's like, hey, it's on me. I lost the game. I thought the guy was finally growing up. Then he gets interviewed last week, starts talking about how, oh, Sherman's afraid of our receivers. Oh, if I had thrown it just a little bit higher, he would have been the GOAT and we would have won. You know what? This guy, he has all the physical talent in the world, but he's got $1 million talent and a 10-cent head. He doesn't have the makeup, the mental makeup to be a starting quarterback, an elite starting quarterback in this league. And you know what? the guy can just live in our shadow for the next 10 years. I'm done with him.
That's a hell of a line.
It sure was. Mark, you said you had a couple more?
Well, we talked earlier about some of these sports writers. I want a big one to New York Post writer Bart Hubbock, who beforehand was all indignant about Marshawn not speaking to the press much. This is one of the jerks, one of those Pro Football Writers Association jerks that were really wanted to bully Marshawn into talking, and he called him a childish jerk in a story. He called Marshawn a childish jerk because Marshawn isn't a big talker. But we know who the childish jerk was. It was you, Hubbock, or whatever the fuck your name is. I don't. Oh, FCC, sorry. On a personal note, I want to do one to my brother-in-law, Tony. Now, Tony is. I like the guy in some ways. I mean, he's the head of well, I don't want to get into what he's the head of a big company actually, but he begrudgingly gives me any sort of shout outs to my Hawks. And I mean, we didn't talk for a long time after Super Bowl XL. That actually, because my wife's from Pittsburgh. I don't know if everybody, but my wife's from Pittsburgh, and I actually could not go back to that city, which I actually liked that city before Super Bowl XL. But afterwards, I cannot go back there because I get in arguments with people, not surprisingly. But he, again, even after this, like he kind of gave me some backhanded. Well, before the game, he was like, last week he was like, well, your team's looking good and blah, blah, blah. And then afterwards, we kind of went back and forth, and like I said, kind of gave me a backhanded congratulations. And I talked about how, I told him that the Hawks are scaring teams in the future because they are so young. And he sends me back an email going, the Seahawks don't scare anyone. And I was like, yeah. I go, I forgot exactly what I said to him after that one there. I might even have just like I couldn't even, it's impossible to argue with this guy. Yeah, that's my brother-in-law. And he's got an aging team that's not going to be very good for the next 5 years. Even though they have one of my neighborhood kids from my neighborhood in Bellevue plays on their offensive line, David DeCastro. Was a great kid there, but
yeah.
He's going to be playing for a bad Steelers team for the next few years.
Excellent. Just excellent. Well, I have a few shout outs out of my own I'd like to share. And I'd like to take my time right now to do that. First, to all the 49er fans who paid money for the billboard in Fife. Yes, we do have one, and it's from this century. To Jimmy Johnson, who said at one time in his career that we were a football team in southern Alaska. Jimmy, you're really bad at geography and even worse at hair management. To Trent Dilfer, who apparently took his benching in Seattle a little hard. Dude, why the hate? We were people chanting for you half the time when Hasselbeck was out on the field. Get over yourself and move on from the fact that we moved on as an organization. And for the last 30 plus years, to anyone in my lifetime who said to me with their nose in the air, why in the hell do you like the Seahawks? Now you know, so shut up. While we're talking about that, I'd also like to give a special shout out to Marv Levy for staying home during this Super Bowl. I appreciate you staying away from MetLife Center. To Colin Kaepernick, kiss this, bitch. And finally, to the people of Indianapolis who actually went out, bought shirts during the Super Bowl week that said the following: Denverlopolis Broncos. I could not make this up. To all of you Indy fans that are still stuck in the past, please do yourself a favor and get over it. You have a really good quarterback now. He's not number 18, but he's pretty decent. And before you know it, he'll be gone too. So why don't you do yourself a favor and let go of the past and grasp onto the present? Because if you don't start rooting for who you got, he's going to be gone. And one last shout out is to former Seattle Times writer Steve Kelly. Steve Kelly wrote an article back in 2010 when Pete Carroll was chosen as a Seahawk head coach. And the title of the article is Picking Pete Carroll Would Make a Bad Situation Worse. And all he says is, Pete Carroll, really? Is that all the Seahawks have for their beleaguered fans? And he finishes the article saying, basically, the Seahawks decision makers appear to be going for the glitter regarding hiring Carroll. They've got stars in their eyes. They're blinded by Carroll's college success, forgetting how poorly he did it as an NFL head coach. Is Pete Carroll the best solution for a better Seahawks tomorrow? Pete Carroll, really? Yes, he is. So shut up.
Man, there's one guy here that nobody brought up, and I'm completely surprised. I thought they would, so I didn't bother. How are we going to let Mel Kiper get off his comments on Russell Wilson on draft day?
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a question. How does this guy have a job? No, for real. How does he even have a job? He's more wrong than when he is right. All he looks like he has a beaver on his friggin' head. Get out of here.
He looks like Joe Bob Briggs, if anybody remembers Joe Bob Briggs. He's a clone of him.
If he had his hair and Joe Namath's jacket, somebody would have shot him from the stands.
I have one more. Or do you guys want to keep slamming Kiper? I'm all for that too. Well, the last one. This is a guy I don't know where he is right now. Probably in his housing development up in Northern California, but he is the number one biggest enemy of all time of the 12th man. You know, I don't wish him death because he doesn't own the team anymore, but I don't wish him a happy life. I wish him just to watch that and realize that the team he sold for a couple $100 million or whatever he did, he made money off of it, but that team is now worth $1.2 billion. And he gets none of that. He gets none of the love. He gets none of the credit for anything. All he gets is that he gets heartbreak. And I hope the fact that he's just sitting there being bummed out that the Seahawks are world champions, something they never would have been under his domain. And that is Mr. Ken Overbearing.
Hate that dude.
Yeah.
Amen is right. That's a great one right there.
When they were building the stadium and putting up the artwork, I was saying, you know what? Forget about the artwork. All you need is a statue of Steve Largent out front and a painting of Ken Behring in the bottom of every urinal. Why not?
It's the end of the third quarter, bitches.
Wow. Now, did that feel good? I feel like I got a lot off my chest. I don't know about the rest of you.
Achieved catharsis.
So let's do this. Let's take a quick station identification, come back with the final quarter of this celebration, and let's give some sincere thank yous when we come back.
You're listening to the 12th Man Fan Jam on the Seahawk Positivity YouTube channel.
Y'all thought this was a matchup. Mismatch.
And now it's time for the fourth quarter of the 12th Man Fan Jam. Here to lead us through the final quarter is once again our host, the self-appointed Reverend Moses of the St. Paul Allen Church of Seahawk Positivity.
Yes, thank you once again, Magic Voice, the 12th Man Fan Jam, and welcome to the fourth quarter of this special Super Bowl celebration edition of the 12th Man Fan Jam. If you're still with us after we just viciously ripped through a lot of people and just ripped them to shreds for disrespecting us and our team and our loyalty, you're in for a treat, because here in the fourth quarter we're going to get a little bit more sincere. I asked the panel to think of just a couple of people that they would like to really share this Seahawk victory with. People who have been with them through thick and thin, people with them since the beginning, things like that. And so I'm going to ask the panel to share their special thank yous to these people. And it's people they want to share this victory with more than anybody else. And I think all of us could come up with a lot of people, but we try to pick the very, very top of this list to share this victory with. And we'll start with Matt. Matt, who would you like to share this Seahawks Super Bowl victory with?
I want to go all the way back for me, back to the beginning. I want to thank my mum. My mum actually bought a pair of pajamas for me in 1987. In fact, she bought two pairs of pajamas. One pair of pajamas was a Miami Dolphins pair of pajamas, and one was a Seattle Seahawks pair of pajamas. Luckily, the only pair of pajamas that would fit me were Seattle Seahawks pajamas. So I was very close to being a Miami Dolphins fan, I think, and I'm very thankful that she didn't feed me so much when I was a child, and she starved me. And as a result, I could fit into the Seattle Seahawks pajamas. So thanks, Mum. I also want to thank somebody actually really quite close to me, Claire Ellis. She's a Vikings fan, actually. She's not a Seahawks fan, she's a Vikings fan. And Claire was sick on a Sunday night, actually, and I used to live with her and her partner. And she was sick on a Sunday night in November 2001, and it was the night that we played the Oakland Raiders, and we won. And it was the night that I was also sick, so I got to sit at home and watch said Seahawks play the Oakland Raiders and win. And it was that game that got me back into watching and following American football. Because in the UK we had the 1980s where American football was huge, and then in the 1990s where you couldn't find it for love nor money anywhere, and the internet didn't really exist in the same way, so you couldn't just sort of pick up and watch a game. You had to sort of wait for one of the channels over here to play them. So I'd like to thank Claire, because without Claire being ill and without Claire being an American football fan herself, I probably wouldn't be here now, and I wouldn't have continued to watch the Seahawks. And finally, I want to thank Ian Smith, who's both feet in the end zone on SeahawkBlue.com, also known as Smudge. Yep, some of you may have met him already. Smudge persuaded me to go to Seattle for Motherland, not in 2013, but 2012, when I went to watch the New England Patriots get beat in the Are You Mad Bro game. It was my first time to Seattle. It was my first time to an American football game in the United States. I actually went down to the San Francisco game after that, where we lost, but it was the Patriots game, which is the one that stays in my mind. And Ian was the one who took me over there and looked after me and made sure that I knew and got to meet people. And some of the people I got to meet, I'm talking with this evening. So it was great to get to meet Dustin, and it was great, obviously, to get to meet my American brother Moses. So without Ian and without both feet Smudge, I again probably wouldn't be here now talking on the podcast to you guys. I certainly wouldn't be sitting here planning my next Motherland trip this year to go and watch another game. I've got just one other thing I want to say. Even this evening, I want to thank Rita at the Seattle Times, who has agreed to put 25 copies of the Super Bowl edition aside for me, so that when I go over in October this year, I can pick them up and bring them home for all the UK Seahawkers over here. So thanks, Rita. You're a star.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Rita. Well done, Matt. Well done. Dustin, you have some special thank yous you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, first people actually I want to thank is my grandparents. My grandma and my grandpa, they are the ones that made me a Seahawks fan. They took me to my first game. I was probably about 2 years old. And I've gone ever since. My grandpa unfortunately passed away in 1999. So he didn't get an opportunity to live to see the Super Bowl, but he was a huge fan. My grandma, on the other hand, she's still here. And matter of fact, she went with me to the NFC Championship game. I'm a season ticket holder now, and she took me when I was a kid. I take her to games now to kind of pay her back. Without those guys, I probably would have never been a part of it. It's a real special relationship, honestly, because of the Seahawks and because of what they did for me. To United States Army. When I was younger, like I said, my grandparents took me, but I was a kid, so I didn't really necessarily appreciate it at that time of my life. I was more of a casual fan. I joined the Army in 2001, went away. I remember very specifically in 2001 walking into my classroom for my AIT, which is Advanced Individual Training, and CNN was up on the TV, and I saw the Kingdome being imploded. I had no idea they were going to implode the Kingdome. I knew nothing of that, and to me, I felt like I grew up there. So that was a huge, huge thing for me. I was like, what the hell is going on? Huge eye-opener. And it was one of those things when I was away in the Army that you really, really appreciated what you had, but you didn't appreciate it until it was gone. So when I got back to Washington in 2002, I just, enjoyed the moment, absorbed the moment. And ever since then, I've been loving life, just being able to go out there and enjoy the things that I had been missing because I didn't realize how good I had it before that. So I think those are my two big ones, honestly.
Well, Dustin, those are just fantastic. They really are. Also on the panel tonight, we have Mark Tye Turner, whose book Notes from a 12th Man, the truly biased history of the Seattle Seahawks, is on sale at Amazon.com. If you've not read it yet and you're a Seahawk fan, you need to. You will fall in love with this book. Mark, you also have a couple people you'd like to thank for this Seahawks Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah, a lot. I mean, I'm kind of on a more of a macro scale, probably with Steve Largent, just because of that he was our first really great player, and everything he did in the community and on the field was amazing. And I also got to thank him because he wrote a very nice blurb for my book. We sent my book out to a bunch of different ex-Seahawks, like 5 people we targeted. Only got response from one of the 5, but we caught the biggest fish. We caught Largent. He's the one that sent back. So that was very cool. So I got to thank him for that. Got to thank Richard Sherman's parents, who raised a really good kid in a very tough environment. I live down here in LA. I'm very familiar with the neighborhood that he grew up in. It is gang central. And his parents kept him out of the gang, and his mom was an amazing what she did. Beverly Sherman did some amazing things to keep him and his brother out, and raised 2 really good kids. This last couple of weeks has really shown kind of America what somebody from that area can do, and the fact that the people called him a thug who had no idea who he is. It really was kind of a really interesting national discussion. It got ugly at times on Twitter. I don't know if you guys saw it, but it was really gross, really sad. It was really sad. I thought we kind of had moved past that, but I guess we haven't. But they really, raised a good guy there. So Sherman, I want to thank that. Paul Allen, pretty obvious there. We all give a huge thank you. I wrote a chapter in my book thanking him. So that's one chapter right there. I can always thank him, because if it wasn't for Paul Allen, we are the Los Angeles Redhawks. Yeah, that was horrifying. A big thank you to a guy who's become a friend of mine in recent years. After I wrote the book, I got to meet him, and we've become good friends. Is a guy named Mark Collins, who started Save Our Seahawks. And Mark, I wrote about him in my book as well, but I don't know if you guys remember, but he is a guy, he's a contractor, and he took a year and a half off his business, away from his business, to form and run Save Our Seahawks. I mean, he put his money where his mouth is. The Seahawks, we had Paul Allen, we had the money, but you also needed the community support. You needed that grassroots movement, and Mark is the one that started that, and he had people like Mama Blue involved, and there was a real good group of people. We all are indebted to them, because they did a lot of the footwork to save the team. And so I think we're all indebted to him and the Save Our Seahawks organization. And finally, a big shout out to my father, who took me to my first Seahawk game. Happened back in 1976, early November. It was like just a couple of days actually after the election of 1976. And the 7th of November 7th, 1976. And the Seahawks were playing the Atlanta Falcons that day. And it turned out it was their first win ever in the Kingdom. We beat the crap actually out of Atlanta that day. Sherman Smith ran for over 100 yards. That was the first time a Seahawk ever ran for over 100 yards. We had our first interception return for a touchdown that day. It was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful game, and it sucked me in. I mean, I was a football fan before that. I was a Bengal fan, but that day I became a Seahawk fan and been that way ever since. I can thank my old man for taking me to that first game.
That's great. Thanks so much for sharing, Mark. Dustin, you got another one real quick?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had one more. And ironically enough, this kind of goes with the opponent from what Mark said. But I started taking my kids to games when they were 2 years old to kind of carry on the tradition. I have twins. They're 2 years old now. They were 2 years old at the time. Beat the Falcons. Michael Vick put out in the first half with a hamstring injury. which is pretty awesome. Seahawks whooped them. But my shout out actually goes to, and my thank you goes to Mike Holmgren, because my kids growing up, unlike me growing up, made the Seahawks a winner. My kids, before Jim Mora, honestly, didn't know anything about the Seahawks other than that they won games. And so they grew up in a completely different kind of environment that I did. They're huge Seahawks fans because of that. I mean, they're watching them, they go to games, the Seahawks win, it makes it easy to cheer for them. So I want to thank Mike Holmgren for making my kids' childhood enjoyable in their football lives.
That's a great one, Dustin. It really is. Seahawk Sal of SeahawkSal.com is here with us. Sal, you got some people you'd like to share this Super Bowl victory with?
Yeah, I have a few. But that was a great point about Mike Holmgren. You know, besides Chuck Knox, I mean, think about it. He brought this team to respectability. You know, I mean, so got to thank Coach Holmgren. He did a hell of a job while he was here. But my main thank you, just like Mark said, I got to thank my father, my old man. You know, he was a diehard New York Giants season ticket holder. You know, I mean, he had season tickets when they played in the Polo Grounds, Yankee Stadium. He used to tell me about Andy Robustelli, Frank Gifford, all those guys. And I've been to so many games with my dad, you know, so many Giants games for that matter. And it was 1979, and he let me stay up late to watch Monday Night Football. So thank him for that. The Seattle Seahawks were playing our hated New York Jets. I can't stand the Jets. I fell in love with the team right there that night. And that was November, and next month later was Christmas, and underneath the Christmas tree I had a Seahawks huddle set. You guys remember that? The old plastic helmets?
Definitely,
yeah,
definitely.
And it was just out of control. I was totally excited, totally surprised. And I asked him years later, how the hell did you get that? You know, there's no internet. You know, there's no local stores. And my father told me he called the team, and he actually ordered the stuff directly through the team.
That's awesome.
Which is a really, really cool little story. He was a diehard New York Giants season ticket holder, you know, and he never discouraged me from rooting for the Seahawks. You know, he encouraged it. If he was alive today, he would have never have thought. He would have thought I was crazy if I told him that the Seattle Seahawks won a Super Bowl in New Jersey, and that they stayed in a Jersey City hotel. We grew up in Jersey City. I went to high school in Jersey City. My father was brought up in Jersey City, so that's just a nice little everything kind of, the circle kind of completed there.
That's a beautiful story, man.
Thanks, Pop. I appreciate it. And I know you were watching. I finally got one, and I can die happy. I've been telling everybody that I can finally die happy.
Just not anytime soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like to put it off as long as possible.
Definitely.
Hey, Sal, I was going to tell you, I was at that game that you saw on Monday Night Football. I remember.
Oh, were you?
I was there. Oh, yeah, I was there. I was
1979, man.
Yeah, against the Jets. We beat up the Jets that night, too.
30-7.
Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, because that was the first Monday Night Football game ever in Seattle. And so there were signs all over the place. It was great. And we were like, there's Cosell up there in the booth. My dad was thinking he was probably drunk. He was wondering when he was going to be all boozed up at what point in the game. So
that was a great game. And I tell you, like I said, that was the night I fell in love with the team. And I knew they blew away the Jets. And that was definitely that was definitely a factor in my fandom.
Just to let you know, Sal, it was November the 26th, 1979, and the Jets lost 30-7.
There you go.
Sounds like a good game.
It was awesome.
I'd also like to thank all the Seattle people who I've met over the years. You know, I started my site, and I don't even need to say the name of it. Everybody knows what it is. It doesn't matter. It's just a fan site. It's small. It's just a bunch of people. I like to consider it an internet sports bar. You know, where people come, they hang out, they bullshit about the Seahawks, and we talk. But I've met so many cool people. I mean, I really have. I mean, from Will Harrison, who's here today, to Neil Hart, to Laura, to Bruce, to everybody, and they treated me like family. I mean, Neil Hart didn't even know who I was. Didn't know who I friggin' was, and he sent me, pieces of the Kingdom concrete in the mail without me even asking. I go to Seattle, I crash on people's couches.
Yeah,
it's an environment that's
a
hell of a lot different than what it is here.
Neil's a nice guy.
He's a good guy.
You guys from that area, you guys do it right. You know what I mean? Everybody makes fun of New York, New Jersey. It is what it is, but I mean, you guys got it right on that end because you're cool, solid individuals, and I always will appreciate the way you treated me and you took me in. I always appreciate that. And lastly, I have to say, and I just mentioned him briefly, and I'm not a mushy guy, but Will Harrison. This guy has become like my brother. I mean, what he does for my site, what he does for other Seahawk fans, I mean, he pumps out articles every single week. Off-season, training camp, scouting camp. I mean, it doesn't make a difference. He's, week after week after week, he dedicates his time to go putting out quality stuff. And by the way, I don't even know if he's interested in this, but he should be the one that's in the newspapers writing these articles. Talent to go do it.
Yeah, totally.
He's got the talent to go do it. And if I knew anybody up there, I'd make sure that he got a gig doing that. But I don't have any connections. So whoever talked about that Seattle Times guy or whoever the hell it is, give a call for Will because he deserves it.
Thanks.
And that's it. I'm not a mushy guy, but that's about as mushy as I get. But I thank everybody, whoever treated me better than, I got to be honest, than I would have treated them if I was in their position. They were hell of people.
Will Harrison, Seahawk Sal, Seahawks Insider.
Thank you, Sal. That was some wonderful stuff. Will, you have some special thank yous that you'd like to share?
I do. I always tell people, it's usually around the end of the season, that the thing I miss even more than the actual football, the thing I miss is always the camaraderie, the hanging out with friends. I mean, I got season tickets for the first time right out of college in 1999. And I moved down here. I didn't know anybody. And that first season, it was fun and all. I mean, it's like, hey, I finally got season tickets. This is what I always wanted. But I didn't really know anybody until that following summer when I started posting a bit at a couple different sites online. And I came across a guy calling himself Yo Hartster. Now, he was mentioned just a couple minutes ago. You all know him as Neil Hart. The world knows him and trembles as Kiltman.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to second what Sal said about Neil, I mean, that guy's always just looking out for people, doing for people. I mean, just really wanting to make this whole Seahawks experience good for everybody that he can. And I got to know him, and he's one of my very best friends today, and I'm proud to know him. So my first thank you is to Neil, and he actually pointed. He actually just pointed. When I was getting to know him, he pointed me towards this, you could call it an internet sports bar, this Seahawks fan site that also became very important to me. And I'm not just mentioning him because he was so kind to mention me earlier, but I'd also like to say thank you to Seahawk Sal for putting that website together and making this community that I know so many people called home. So many people, it drew so many people together. I mean, we would chat on Thursday night, get to know people. A lot of the people Sal mentioned, I mean, they're my brothers and sisters too. I love those guys. But, Sal's always so nice about what I do for the site. But, if it wasn't for him, there'd be no site. I wouldn't be writing anything. And, I wouldn't have met half of these guys. And it's really been great for all of us. It spawned the annual Seahawk Sal reunions, which have always been a blast. No arrests or convictions so far. But it was just...
That's a good stat.
Not that you know of. Not that you know
of. But it's just been a wonderful experience for so many people, including me. And also, I'd like to give a shout out to Troy Anderson and Paulie and Jeremiah and Katie and everybody else working at King Street Bar and Oven, which became our regular pre- and post-game watering hole a little over 10 years ago. And also, I met so many people just, bullshitting with them on game days. Hey, how you doing? Nice jersey, nice wig, nice face paint, all the above. And, I met so many friends that way. And it's just so many people that I know now and can say, hey, hey, how you doing? How have you been this off season? So, I mean, Troy and all those guys for having such a great place to call home on game day. And then finally, I know I'm going along, but it's not very original either, but I just want to thank my dad. I mean, he also took me to my very first Seahawks game back in 1990. We lost, but I wanted to come back anyway. And I've made a point of bringing him with me to as many Seahawk games as I can these last several years, just kind of as a thank you for a lot of things. And I'm glad he was able to be there for the NFC Championship game and just for all the stuff he's done for me.
Thanks, Will. That's some great stuff. I also have a couple of thank yous and special thank yous I'd like to give out this evening to just a couple people. There are so many to name. So many people have done things. So many people that are on this posse that have done things for me. People that have done things when I've come out. Even everything from helping me get around town when I go to Seattle to sending me stuff for no reason in the mail that says Seahawks on it. Just a lot of people. Just a complete outpouring of the entire community. But there are just a couple people I'd like to point out in particular. And most of that is because of longevity. These are the people I've known for a really long time in the name of the Seahawks. Back when Ken Behring was going to move the team, KJR had a website, and they had a place where you could talk to people. And it was back when you didn't have to register for anything. You just put a name down and you went and you talked. And I went under the clever name of Seahawk Fan. And there was someone there that her and her husband went under the name Kansas Fan. And I said, well, why are you on this board? You're a Kansas City Chief fan. And they said, no, we live in Kansas, but we're Seahawk fans. And I thought that was fascinating. There was actually another person out in the Midwest like me who was a Seahawk fan that lived far away from Seattle. So we would talk quite often, all the time. And it wound up being Becky Selm, and her site, beckysplace.com or beckysplace.net. Is a wonderful website, and she was really the first fan I met on the internet, and we've had that friendship for now, gosh, it's been almost 20 years, which is just unbelievable. So she and I always have a special friendship wrapped up in the Seahawks. So I'm glad the Seahawks won, and I want to share that with her for sure. Following that time, I found a website, Seahawk Sal, who's on tonight. It made fun of my two things, not to make fun of my two things. It took my two loves, Seahawk football and the Mafia, which I thought was great. So I started to join on there. And there I met so many people. I met Shadowhawk that's on tonight. I met Sal himself. But more importantly, I met a guy who came down to a Cincinnati game. And he came down to a Cincinnati game in, I believe, 2003 or 2002. I want to say 2003. And we met, and we just hit it off immediately. We were like brothers that had been long-lost brothers all our lives. We had an instant brotherhood, and it's stayed strong to this day. I'm referring, of course, to guys, or I've been referred to, this will be his third time in the thank yous, but I think it's worth it. And that's Neil Kiltman Hart. Neil has just been so instrumental in helping me live out a dream. All I've ever wanted to do is go to a Seahawk game. And Neil helped me not only come out, but he helped me, get a ticket down where I could really be part of the action. He introduced me to so many wonderful people over the years, so many wonderful friends isn't even a good enough word. Just so many wonderful Seahawk family members that I've met through Neil Hart, and I just could not thank him enough. So I really want to share this Seahawks Super Bowl victory with him especially. And finally, on a personal note, my family. My wife puts up with me doing all this Seahawks stuff, and I never thank her enough for that. And I know sometimes it drives her crazy. When we got married, she said, it's going to be, I said, it's only going to be 16 or 18 weeks, and now everything just kind of rolls around. It's almost 52 weeks out of the year. But for her putting up with me, I appreciate it. And last and not least, my kids. Mosette is a diehard Seahawk fan. She's 12 years old, and she is a diehard Seahawk fan, and she's the voice on our show that's on. She does our voiceovers for us, and she does not cuss. I want to say she says, holy shot, it's halftime. She doesn't say what you think she says. And she says it's the third quarter botches. She doesn't say what you think she says. But she loved to do that. She really got a kick out of doing the little voiceovers and the commercials and the show. And she really gets into it, and she's a diehard Seahawk fan. But also, especially my son, little Mo. He's 8 years old. Last year, when the Atlanta Falcons were playing us in the playoffs and they beat us, he was inconsolable for 10 minutes. But before that, I had said if the Seahawks get to the Super Bowl, I was going to try to get out and watch the Super Bowl with all my friends out in Seattle, which is great. But when I looked over and I saw him in his green hat and his jersey, I thought, no, this is where I need to be. I need to be with little Mo watching this game. And luckily, we were able to stay together this year and watch the Super Bowl together. And my moment when they won the Super Bowl was rehearsed. Little Mo said, I want to rehearse this. I want to be sure we get this down right. And so when the clock struck 0, he jumped on the couch, turned to me, and gave me a great big hug for 30 seconds, maybe even longer. And that's what I'll never forget, and that's what I've never forgotten about this whole season, was that very thing right there, the celebration of Seahawk football for my son and I. And so I want to share this especially with little Mo, who's been beside me this whole season and last season, and will probably be beside me for now until the end of time as my Seahawk football watching buddy. So I wanted to thank him as well. Okay, well, the music is telling us that it's time to wrap up our Super Bowl celebration show. We want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to waste an hour and a half of your post-Super Bowl celebration time with us. I want to thank everyone who's been here, everyone who's been here during the year, everyone who's here tonight. Seahawk Sal, don't forget his website. Mark Tye Turner, Notes from a 12th Man, A Truly Biased History of Seattle Seahawks. Don't forget to get the book on Amazon.com. I want to thank Will Shadowhawk for the news all year. I also want to thank Statsman Mark, who couldn't be here tonight. Thanks for all the stats you provided for the whole season. I want to thank my brother from another mother across the ocean, from England, from merry old England, Matt, for all that he's done and continues to do. I want to thank Dustin for being a wonderful member of the posse this year as well, and all the guests we've had. We're not done yet. We're going to come back and we're going to have another show very soon. We have our award show coming up probably next week, and we are going to continue to have shows in the off season. So stay tuned and stay looking at the Seahawk Positivity YouTube channel and be ready for that, because we are going to have more shows. So on behalf of everybody here and everyone who's ever been here, on behalf of everyone on the 12th Man Fan Jam, this is your self-appointed Reverend Moses of the St. Paul Island Church of Seahawk Positivity saying, have a great off season. And we'll talk to you real soon. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.